Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us again. This is Goody and Johnny Mo with the movies. We are doing episode 24 tonight. We are going to be doing a special retro review of the 2017 movie It.
It Chapter 1.
Well, now that we know that's Chapter 1, yes. With Chapter 2 coming out in a couple of weeks, we figured we'd kind of get this out there, put our thoughts out on the first film, which we did see in the theaters back then.
In 2017?
September 2017, yeah. So then kind of get everybody ready for It Chapter 2 coming out. So before we get started, we'll do our traditional drink of the night.
I am back with my Old Faithful, Ireland's finest, a nice pint of Guinness. Guinness spelled with 2 N's and 2 S's, except no alternative spelling.
I'm doing the Dogfish Head Pumpkin Ale. Last week we were in Delaware, which I believe is where Dogfish Head is brewed.
Oh, that I did not know.
Or somewhere around there. But I do love pumpkin ale. I think I said that in the last video when I was doing an Oktoberfest. So for me, a nice little pumpkin ale. Cheers.
Cheers. Quick shout out to friends and family of Goody and Johnny Mo at the movies. I want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Alex, who is a wizard at computer graphic design and does something for me for my birthday every year. And this year he did not disappoint. He did a nice mock-up of me as the Scarecrow from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. And the title is Momo Stories to Tell at the Con. And it actually came out really, really good. So I just wanted to say thanks and glad for the support.
And with that, we are going to get into this wonderful review. We just rewatched it yesterday.
Yes.
Because John had not seen it since we saw it in the theaters 2 years ago. I've watched this film a few times since. Whenever it's on cable or if I see it anywhere, I'll try to record it and watch it because I really do enjoy the film.
Yeah, I literally don't think I have seen it, and even in small bits and pieces, like if it was on, didn't even turn it on. I think I was waiting to just sit down and watch it again.
Yeah,
because it's definitely worth a second viewing.
And this is going to be spoiler heavy. So again, if you haven't seen this film in the last 2 years, please avoid this if you don't want to be spoiled.
And we highly recommend you see it.
Yes,
because
especially before
the sequel's
Chapter
coming out. September 8th, I think.
6th?
6th?
8th? Whatever that Friday, whatever next Friday is.
First, second week in September. It's coming out real soon.
So, this movie is directed by Andy Muschietti,
who I had never heard of before, so we did a quick lookup to see what he's done in the past. And he appears to be Argentinian, so he has some South American credits underneath his belt.
Definitely horror. Most of his credits seem to be horror based.
Yeah, and some of the movies he directed, he actually wrote. I think the one movie I recognized that he did in 2013 was Mama, which I saw and I wasn't that impressed with it. It was okay, if I'm thinking of the right film. But he doesn't seem to be very prolific. Like literally, that was the last movie in 2017 he directed it, and then in 2013
so four year gap.
And I'm like, okay, I feel like he should have been doing more.
But I thought that was a huge trust part on Warner Brothers.
Well, you know
to give this guy the reins of a big film.
Yeah,
like this.
I agree, and I think he might have bit off more than he can chew, in my opinion. Because to me, and we'll get into this more, but to me, I think the movie was done more by the numbers as opposed to with any great artistic design behind it. I felt in a lot of respects, I felt that there could have been more, but I'll get more into that.
Well, I think going into this film, I don't think anybody of us realized that it was going to be a 2-part film.
But I think it merits it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, for those of you who have never read the Stephen King, the actual book itself, the book I believe is
enormous. It's
over 1,000 pages.
It's
and it's
I would say
one of
I think it's his second longest book. I think the uncut version of The Stand, and maybe even the original abridged version of The Stand, is probably longer than it.
Okay.
But it's really long.
It's a very long. It's a very long book, and if any of you have seen the 1990, that was Stephen King's It, that was made for TV, the one with Tim Curry. I believe that was shown over, was it 3 nights or 2 nights?
I think it was 3. I'll be honest with you. I'm pretty sure I saw that when it came out, but I remember seeing it, but I don't remember it well because I think I only saw
Yeah.
it that once. And to me, in all honesty, it has all the hallmarks of a TV movie.
Oh,
Which
absolutely.
is very different from
A major
a
motion
major
picture.
studio release
Yeah,
or something
big
like
time.
that. Very different.
Like so the
But a lot of
difference
Stephen
is
King's movies are TV.
made
movies.
yeah,
they
went
do
to
a
TV.
lot of
Yes,
them.
they did. Yeah, and
So-
this was definitely one of them. When this first came out, and I was 9 years old, scared. I saw bits and parts of it, scared the crap out of me. So I didn't watch the whole movie until I was probably a teenager at some point. But the one thing so this movie does something different than the 1990 film did. So the 1990 film tries to stay close to the book in regards to how it jumps timelines. So
Yeah.
in Stephen King's book, it jumps back and forth between them as kids
the kids,
and then
and
the
then the
adults,
adults.
and
And it tells the story
just
in
it
tandem.
just zigzags, just goes back and
Yeah.
forth.
yeah.
And the 1990 TV film does that pretty well. It does a decent job of keeping up with that.
Which I think makes sense if you were planning on doing the entire story in one shot.
Yes, yeah, because you almost have to do it that way.
Yeah, it would kind of be silly to. I think it would lose a little bit in one sitting if
Yeah.
if they told it linearly. There would be no reason for them to change that.
So then 2017, the major motion picture film. So Andy Muschietti gives us basically the entire kids chapter in one film.
Yeah, about 2 hours and 15
A
minutes.
little over 2 hours long, which probably summed up the majority of, or at least gave us a good synopsis of what the book had portrayed. Missing
Yeah.
some things, of course.
I'll get
And
it,
it
I'll get
changed.
into that later.
It changed a couple of some of the things that the characters did. Like I think Ben Hanscom in this does more of the research in the movie, whereas in the book, I think it's more Mike that does a lot of the background
Yeah.
and research of like the town of Derry.
Okay, so just a little bit of.
Now you love
Yeah,
book.
yes, I want to
It's-
talk a little bit
it's
about
one of
our
your
literary
favorite
history. for
favorite
us.
books.
So I'm a big fan of Stephen King. However, books and the movies. But I lean, in terms of his books, I lean more towards his earlier classics. There's actually been a lot more recent ones that I probably haven't read at all. But I would say it is by far my favorite Stephen King book. When you read that book, you get immersed in not just the main 7 child characters. You really get immersed in all the other side characters as well. It's a really, really great character study, and it's in depth and it's intense. So I would say it would be my favorite Stephen King book, and then probably followed by The Stand, and Tommy Knockers, Carrie, and Shining, and Salem's Lot, Christine, all of those. Now, I read the book at least once back in the day. I might have even read it again back in the day, a long time ago, but I haven't read it since. And I'm dying to reread it again because it's just so good. It's one of those books that you really don't want it to end. It's really good. Now, you never read the book, but listened to it.
So after I saw the film, I loved the movie so much, I wanted to go and read it. Not a huge reader, so I ended up getting the audiobook, and I listened to it in the car. The audiobook was incredibly long.
Sure.
I can't
imagine
it was
how
also,
long it took you to
but it was the unabridged version, so like they literally,
thank goodness.
they had everything.
You wouldn't want the cliff notes.
No.
You don't want the whole thing. Yeah.
Not at all. But like this, I want to say it was something like 40 something hours long, maybe even longer than that. I might even be off by a few, but it was very long. Took me weeks and weeks to read. I kept to listen to it. I did it back and forth to and from work.
And I've never done anything like that. I bet you that actually is interesting.
Oh, I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it because the movie was so fresh in my mind. I think I literally did it like 2 months or 3 months after the movie came out. So I was able to really kind of think back to the theatrical film and kind of just like, oh, okay, like, oh, they did this in the movie, but they did this in the TV film in 1990. So like I could see the difference between the two, comparing it to the book.
Yeah.
And I liked that a lot. I really did.
And
got a kick out of that.
I think I forgot a decent number of the details. And if it really is the case that the Mike Hanlon character did a lot of that Derry research, I feel
I'm
like,
pretty sure that
I feel like
that was him. And the TV
like-
movie did that.
yeah,
The TV movie
and I
put Mike
feel like
in
that's a
charge of
bad
that.
change because I think that took a lot of
A little bit away from Mike.
texture and character away from
Yeah.
his character. Because
No,
otherwise,
I
what
agree.
else did he have? You know, he didn't have much else.
So I thought, first and foremost, I want to say that I think the casting for this film, I thought, was done unbelievably well. And so if you've been watching us so far, I've mentioned in a couple of films that had young child actors that I referenced this film because the child actors in this film are absolutely outstanding. Almost every single one of them, I thought, put on a pretty good performance.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. But I think there are definitely certain standouts. I think the
So-
guy who played Richie Tozier,
So that's
fantastic.
Wolfhard. I think
He said he was
Wolfhard. He's the one who's from Stranger Things.
which I have not seen.
You need to get on that. That's a side note. But he is fantastic. This kid, great young actor, and you really start to see him come into his own between Stranger Things and this. It's two different roles for him. I think in Stranger Things he plays a little bit more of a, not serious, but definitely not the comic relief like he does in this.
Yeah, 'cause-
and when he's in the scenes, he helps carry the scene.
Oh yeah, because the character of Richie Tozier is he's the comic of the group.
He does the impersonations.
Funny,
He's always,
he comes up, says a lot of funny things. He's the jokester, and I think the kid who plays him like really embraces that and delivers his lines very well. I think I like his performance the best.
I agree.
And then after that, I'm not really sure, but I like Beverly Marsh.
So that's
The girl who played Beverly Marsh.
Sophia Lillis, I think her name is.
Yeah, and I'm not going to remember any of these kids'
Yeah.
names because I
had to-
don't think I've ever seen them in anything else.
It's only because I've watched it a few times and I actually looked up some of the names before we started doing this today.
And Ben Hanscom is okay.
Yeah, good kid.
And then the other ones,
I like
they're all
Eddie.
kind of even, I think, in my opinion.
I liked Eddie Kasprak. That's Jack Dylan Grazer. He was also he played Freddy in Shazam.
Oh yeah. Oh,
so
okay. I did.
I
see that,
thought
yeah.
I thought he was pretty good, and even the
Kid who plays Stan Uris, almost like the nerdy type.
he was the one that didn't stand out to me.
Yeah.
If I had to rank them, he probably would have been the weakest.
see,
of
to
the
me, I
bunch.
thought the weakest was Mike Hanlon.
Oh, him?
Yeah.
I thought the scenes he did in was fine. I just think I actually would have preferred to see a little bit more of him. I almost feel like we don't see him that much for that first half of the film. You don't really see a lot of him.
Yeah.
It's not until later, obviously, when they all get together that you finally start to catch up with him. But for the kid who plays Bill Denbrough, Jaden, I think his name is.
He was good.
I thought he was pretty decent. I thought he did a great job with the stuttering.
Mhm.
I mean, I always think that has to be hard because it's not your normal speech pattern, and
Right.
to change that
Right.
to stay in character, I thought he did a really good job. But I still think the standout star is Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah.
As Pennywise.
Pennywise? Yeah. Yeah, I think he definitely did a better job than Tim Curry.
Well, Tim Curry was much more. That's your TV movie style.
Yeah.
Acting, but I mean, I really, but it was at the time though. There were scary parts to that. Like it wasn't, some of it was campy where he had some camp. Like you go back and you look at that now, and you can definitely see some of the campiness of it.
Yeah.
But there were some scenes that were kind of, as a child, frightening.
I think I actually have to go back and watch that TV movie just on general principle, just to get like a fresh viewing. Like,
Oh, yeah.
literally, I mean, my God, 20.
I watched that movie before we saw it.
That came out in 1990.
1990.
Wow, that's like 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm. So I watched that right before we went and saw it. So I kind of had that like fresh in my mind. but I thought Bill Skarsgård it does an unbelievable job. The real things that he's able to do. So in the movie, there's multiple scenes where he's actually his eye, I believe it's his right eye, can kind of drift, and he almost gives himself a lazy eye. He's actually doing that. That's not a contact. That's not CG.
Oh, really?
That's him actually doing it.
I didn't notice him doing that.
Yeah, he does that multiple times in the film, and I think he does it again in the sequel too.
Right, I'm sure he will.
So, and then the other thing that he does is he tends to be able to drool like almost uncontrollably. So there were multiple scenes where when he's talking, he almost has like drool just coming out of his mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually, again, that's him that's creating that. I thought he did a really good job, and just watching some of the behind the scenes of how he kind of tried to stay in character. He stayed away from the kids for the most part for a long time, so that when the kids finally did see him, it was kind of a shock for them, and they tried to get more of a real reaction out of them. Mm-hmm. Like when they do the Neibolt house, that scene where they finally come into contact with Pennywise for the first time. Mm-hmm. That was the first experience for most of the kids seeing him.
Yeah.
I thought that was just so well done. Some of the artistic choices that Andy Muschietti went with in this, I really enjoyed. I thought the music was really. I enjoyed the music.
Yeah,
it's most suspenseful for me for some parts.
I thought the music to me was uninspiring in a lot of. And there were certain parts where it worked, but I felt they should have done more. I felt from a musical standpoint it should have been more of an intense penetrating presence. Like I think the music could have been.
Well, see, I thought to me that there was some definitely intense scenes. Not the whole part, but the scenes where it needed to be intense in like the Neibolt house.
Because
when they're always being
the score, I don't remember the score. It made no lasting impression on me. There were no scenes that I remember like the score and going, oh wow, I liked how that was scored. I liked how that contributed to the scene. And I didn't get any impressions of that. And even after the second viewing, I was just like, I just wish the music was more. Because a really good musical score can elevate a film.
Yep.
Just the imagery.
Any John Williams
score. It adds texture and layer to the image. And you can play the movie without music at all, and it's going to look the way it looks. But you can play the same exact film with so music, and it'll do okay. The same exact movie with a great score will just make the film better. It has its part.
I mean, listen, I'm not gonna listen to the score all by itself the way I would with the John Williams score.
Yeah, but I wouldn't expect a John Williams type score either, because John Williams, he has a lot of
he's big fanfare
motifs and fanfare, a lot of recurring themes. The way a score can accentuate certain things, and I just felt that, in my opinion, I felt that there were a lot of lost opportunities. I thought they could have explored that more.
I did like a lot of the set scenes. I thought a lot of the sets were well done. Like the Neibolt house, to me, I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I enjoyed the sets, but sometimes I think I almost felt in certain scenes like the colors were off.
The colors seemed muted in some scenes, but I almost wonder if that was done intentionally.
Yeah, it was like something's weird, and this is gonna make me sound like a broken record, but this is another movie that I felt would have gained more in black and white with use of color in certain spots. This is a horror film, and you can do some really scary stuff in black and white. And I felt like if they would have kept a lot of the reds only, it would have made it having the balloons is red, or maybe even some of the blood is red, or I forgot this. I was gonna say the line. I forgot my shirt. I'm wearing my. I hope you can see it. I'm wearing my Pennywise the Dancing Clown shirt. My wife absolutely hates this shirt. and she can't wait for me to bring it home so she can throw it out, and I'm not bringing it home. I'm leaving it here so I can wear it for It Chapter 2. I'm going to drive my wife insane even more by spilling
Oh no.
Guinness on it, you know, and now it's like, and she still can't throw it out. Now it's stained.
And that's the show.
So, yeah, like the red in Pennywise's facial makeup, and even was his hair red or orange?
No, it was like an reddish orange.
Yeah, I felt like they could have made certain parts of Pennywise. They could have kept it in color, and I think that would have been a really bold, artistic choice. And I think they could have spread it out, even not just red, but different colors. And I think that would have worked because the book is a really scary book. There are really some scary scenes in there, and in black and white, you just assume the color is right, and when you put it in color, you got to make sure the color is right. And I just give a couple of instances where I felt like the leper. That was, I think, Eddie Katzbrat's.
That was Eddie's fear, yeah.
Fear. Like, I felt that the leper didn't look right. I felt like the leper looked like somebody's bad Halloween costume. You know, like it didn't look real. It didn't look like a nightmare. It literally looked like, it's a really bad mask. Like a cheesy Halloween mask. I thought, and if the color isn't right, then it detracts. But when it's in black and white, you just kind of, it's just a matter of shading and stuff like that. And you'll see the texture of the outline. So I think if you're going to, like in this case, because they went in color, which, they were going to do anyway, I guess, I felt like there were just certain things that they needed to color better. But yeah, if they would have done this in black and white, oh man. And it would have been so
You can
good.
talk about that all day, I know.
Yeah, and I hope people don't think like I'm a dinosaur, like, he wants another movie in black and white. It's like, you can watch, there are some really good movies in black and white. When you can see what you can do with black and white, you sit there and say, oh wow, yeah, I know what he's talking about. But anyhow, one thing I didn't like about the film also was, I didn't care for the cinematography that much. I felt like they did not. I felt like a lot of the scenes were just kind of filmed set, filming the action. I don't think they used I don't think they used nearly as many close-ups as they could have, which I think would have been effective. And I don't think they used nearly as much, like maybe different camera angles.
I think it's because it was more of an ensemble film. So like they were trying to get in a lot of the group members. Like they had, so like when they were in the quarry. There was a bunch of close-up scenes there. Like they switched back and forth where they had some of the group shots, and then they had close-ups on Barbara, close-ups on Bill. I think what I liked most about this film is just the camaraderie that the kids made you feel. Like you believe that all these kids were friends. The way that they talk to one another, like just it's almost like the ease of the conversation, everything just kind of flew off the tongue. And I can almost imagine just being on set watching these kids do it. Mm-hmm. It probably just felt so natural to them because I felt that watching it, that like just the opening scene when they're all talking to each other in the school, and they're talking about a bar mitzvah, and they're busting Stan's chops about the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Just like the way that these kids would talk to one another, and the fact that they're all in middle school. It's like these are middle school kids. Like this is exactly what it sounds like, probably like just listening to these guys. Just I'm trying to remember back when I was that age. The conversations that I would have with my buddies and my friends, and this was they curse a lot in this film, and it's like
you know what, and
I'm like, all right, this would happen. They're not around their parents.
Right,
they're not around their parents. Like they're gonna curse a lot.
They actually, I recognize in the film, like they actually are cursing a lot, and I don't remember if they cursed that much in the book. They might have. I can't imagine I can't imagine they added that like as an element that wasn't there in the book. But I just don't remember it being that much as I think. Not that they were cursing like sailors.
No.
But there was definitely a lot of instances of bad words.
Oh yes. Absolutely.
And I don't remember that being as much in the book. But I again, I could be wrong. And I get what you, and I have to not fall into the trap because being familiar with the book, there's judging a movie on its own merits, and there's
Yes.
also judging a movie as how good is it of an adaptation, and you try to keep those two things separate, because at the end of the day, somebody who has not read the book or seen any of the other versions, or heard it on a audio tape, is able to watch this movie and judge it on its own merits in a
Absolutely.
void. But then when you get a scenario where now you know the source material, that they're not completely separate,
But
but they're not completely combined.
But you'll
either.
have expectations.
Yeah,
Like you'll
there's
be
different. There's different.
There are things that when you
gotta be
I
just
can
careful
understand. Like
with
if
that.
you read the book first, there are things that you're going to be expecting to see
Yeah.
that in your head you had a certain way, and then when you see it played out on film,
Yeah.
it's going to be like your vision of it's going to be different than the director's vision of it.
Right.
You kind of hope that you like what the director did, because that's really the only hope you've got.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not going to be exactly the way that
No,
you
it's
pictured it in
definitely
your head.
not.
But you just hope they did the scenes. They just hope you just hope that they did it justice. That's the only
Yeah.
thing you can hope for.
And I would say that my number one criticism of the film, and it plays to both of those scenarios, what, reading the book, what I expected just from a regular moviegoer. I think my number one criticism of the film is that the pacing of the story is very slow and lackadaisical. And a lot of scenes, I believe, are too long for no good reason. There's a lot of empty space. They show the whole scene from beginning to end, and then they go on to the next one. And they're not saving any story time with editing. Like I think a lot of those scenes could have been edited tighter, and it would have been more effective, and it would have gave them more time to do more things. And the reason why I consider that a criticism is because the book is enormous, and
Yes.
there are so many great scenes and scenarios that are completely eliminated from the movie because there's not enough time. And granted, I mean, even though if you, technically if you cut the book in half, you have the kids section and the adult section. Now you're really just doing half the book in this movie.
Right.
So in 2 hours and 15 minutes, in all honesty, I believe chapter 2 is like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
It's
Over
2.5 hours.
They easily could have made chapter 1 2.5 hours and still not had enough time for everything. But I felt like they shot themselves in the foot a little bit, because I know you're not going to get everything in there. There's no way. But with the time that they had, they could have gotten more in had they made it a lot tighter. And you could have had so much more texture and character development. And I think it would have been a better film. I'll just give one example. There's like one scene where they show Beverly Marsh, going down her fire escape to meet the kids. And they literally show her going down the entire fire escape to get to the kids. And it's like, you can make that a tighter scene. You could show her going out the window and then starting to go down, and then cut to her being down there. And what she did. You don't have to show the whole. And I just felt there were a lot of scenes where they showed people walking to where they were going. And it's like, okay, you can get rid of that. I felt like the camera was just very lackadaisical with the storytelling. And when you had so much source material to pull from, I think they should have went out of their way to edit it tighter, move things along faster, and get even more great things in there. And I think it would have been packed, because we were an hour into the movie, and I'm like, well, they really haven't done much yet. How far are we into the movie? And you would hit the pause or whatever, and it was like we were an hour and 10 minutes in already. And I'm like, are you kidding me? They could have done so much more.
See, I didn't mind some
felt
of that stuff, because to me, I actually feel that some of those scenes just add to it, because I feel like it's just building, because it is real. That's like you're watching this, because guess who else does that? Tarantino does that. Tarantino shows people just walking just walking along. Numerous films of his,
Yeah,
he's
but,
done that.
but
And to
yeah.
me, you could say the same exact thing, that you could have cut some of those things to make it a little bit tighter. But there's a reason why the director does it.
Yeah, to me, I think the reason why the director did it, because I don't know. I think I think he bit off more than he could chew, and it's hard to make a film like that. It's hard to make a film that's edited and tight and going from scene to scene. It's easier to place the camera down and show like complete scenes.
But then people say, "Oh well, look, they rushed it. They had these hard cuts to get rid of that scene and get to the next scene."
Oh,
So
but
you can
I wouldn't consider that rushed.
But you might not.
If you do it right.
But the director might say, "No, that feels rushed to me. I don't want to. I
Yeah,
don't want to.
well,
I don't want to jump the scene into this. Like, yes, we know that she's got to go down the stairs, but let's just show it. It's not going to take that long to have her go down."
But like when you have like 30 or 40 of those decisions, and you always opt for the long one, now you're talking.
I get it. It adds up. I get it.
It adds up, and it takes and to me, it made the film a little slow. Just from watching the film, I felt it progressed very slowly. But from knowing the source material, I was like, oh geez, if they had done it so much faster, they could have pulled in. They could have done, and those scenes would have done justice, and they would have added more flavor and texture and more things going on, because there's so much going on.
But I'm just wondering, like, because part of that for me, it's, this movie, you're supposed to be placing yourself in the perspective of the kids. So when Beverly's coming out, like for your example that you're using, the kids are down there and they're just looking up at her, and so it's kind of like us with the Losers Club just looking up at Beverly as she's coming down, because they're pretty much all in awe of her.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just they're just staring and watching her come all the way down the stairs. That was kind of my interpretation of it, is that we're just we're focusing on her, and like the kids are kind of just waiting for her to all come down. But I mean, I get it. Yeah, I think you can do that with. To me, that's a minor criticism, because that can be said of almost any film, that there are certain scenes that can definitely be cut tighter or made shorter to include more content.
And the best examples I can give of that is if you watch, and I think over the course of decades, I think like that whole thing has become stretched out. If you watch like some older films, you watch like an older film from like the 30s or the 40s or the 50s, the amount of ground that they would cover in 2 hours is enormous. Like, it's almost like they waste no time, and it's not like you're being pulled along at breakneck speed. It's just, it's filled with great acting and great dialogue, and it's just, it just goes. Like, they cover so much more ground.
Yeah.
And you know what? I almost feel like today movies may be so expensive that they, it would just astronomically blow the budget out if they actually put together a 2-hour movie that was jam-packed with as much as they could. It would just, it's harder to do.
Well, I think
and movies are so much more prohibitive expensively now.
One, I think that's hard to do, and two, sometimes people don't want it all jam-packed in, because then you hear then there's the complaint of, you're cramming too much into the film. You should have spread it out more. Or that's where you should have just put that in the second film. You knew there was going to be a second film.
I mean, I guess there is a balance to it, but I just felt like this pendulum swung too far to one side. Because I mean, like when you watch the film, it's like you kind of you're on you're almost on like a slow meandering journey with these kids. And it's like, and that is effective to a certain degree, because it's just this slow pacing throughout. I don't feel at any point does it ever, there aren't even any points where it really accelerates that much. So it's like, that can be nice and it works, but I felt like if they would have did more and did it right, it could have been better. Like it could, like to me, like I almost wish I was like a multi-billionaire and I could finance movies the way I want them, because I would be like, no, this is not the it that I would want to see on a film. I want the, I always said, I said if I ever have the opportunity to make one movie the way I have it made the way I want it would always be Stephen King's Carrie, because nobody has made Carrie the way it was done in the book. Nobody's even attempted it. And I would be like, I want someone to make Carrie the way Stephen King wrote it. And I don't care how much it costs because I'm a billionaire. But that, So I would say I think those are probably my main criticisms. I felt that the movie was too slow when they had so much source material to pull from, that they could have gotten more in there without necessarily making it feel like it was going too fast. I felt like the music could have been a little better. I felt the editing could have been tighter. I felt the cinematography could have had better use of close-up and different angles, especially for like a horror film. Like good, like odd angles, like play into fear. And I felt it would have been better in black and white, but that's just me.
I think my biggest, if I had to make a criticism of this film, it would probably be that I don't think it was scary enough. And I don't.
I agree.
I don't.
Because
I don't
the
say the
book
clown,
is
but I
very
think,
scary.
I mean, the film itself. Like I don't know if you want to count jump scares or anything like that, but
And there were a couple of jump scares,
So
but not too cheesy.
for me personally, like I jumped twice in this film when I saw it in the theater. The first time I
You
jumped
told me.
was when Pennywise jumps out of the coffin when Richie's in the room with all the clowns.
Yeah.
By the way, that is the freakiest scene in the entire film. Not a big clown fan myself because of this film from 1990. So the fact that he's in a room filled with all these clowns definitely started to get my heart going a little bit. And then when he puts the coffin down, when he sees his body, that Pennywise jumps out, that made me jump in the theater. That was one scene. And the second scene was after Beverly hit her father with the top of the toilet
tank.
the tank, yeah. She hits him with that, and then she's just staring at him, and then all of a sudden she turns to walk out, and Pennywise is right there and grabs her. That made me jump because I was not expecting to see him there. There was definitely some good scenes, like the film scene when they're in the garage and they're watching the projector, and how that starts to just go and it just starts to play, and then of course Pennywise actually comes out of the film. I thought that was really well done. The Neibolt scene, the Neibolt Street house scene.
The well house.
The well house. The first time they encounter Pennywise, when Pennywise is going after Eddie, and Richie and Bill get out of their room and they get downstairs and they finally see Pennywise and they see him there and
Second face.
and he that's when they were in the well.
Oh, okay.
So before that happens, when they're in the kitchen area and Eddie breaks his arm.
Oh,
and then Pennywise turns around to go after him, and then Beverly comes in from nowhere and shoves the steel rod,
the fence,
the metal spike, right in his eye or his head or his eye. That was a great scene. Like that house, the Neibolt Street scene is one of the best scenes I think in the film. That's really I think when the film pushes through, and that is like the middle. That just after I think the middle of the film is when that actually comes into play.
I think they definitely could have made some of the monsters I think scarier.
Yeah, there's nods to this film. So in the book there's I guess Richie's into horror films like The Wolfman and all that stuff, and that's mentioned in the book. And in the film they don't show all that stuff, but they show tidbits in that Neibolt Street scene. Pennywise changes his hand into the Wolfman's hand. So when he slashes at Ben Hanscom, that's it's the Wolfman. You can see it.
Yeah.
There's also nods to the turtle in the book when they're in the quarry.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, the turtle is actually kind of a hard concept to grasp in the book
because it's a cosmic
being. It's and they're probably going to stay away from it.
I think so too. I think it's just too confusing to put that into the movie itself.
So the other thing they definitely stayed away from.
Oh, well, there's a very graphic scene. Well, we don't know that because we haven't seen it chapter 2 yet.
Well, no, I thought that happened with the kids.
That does happen with the kids, but the last scene. Okay, so the scene that we're talking about, obviously,
in the book,
after the kids defeat Pennywise, they have to get out of the tunnels, but they're all kind of freaked out and scared.
Yeah, and so apparently, the solution.
The solution was for Beverly to have sex with each of the boys.
Yeah.
And basically they all kind of like I think it just makes them like closer and stronger because they're together and they experience something like that. So then it basically helps them to escape. I don't know what Stephen King was on when he wrote this scene.
I don't know either.
But he wrote it.
And it's the one part of the book that is a little odd.
Yes. Yeah,
but and I'll be funny though, the movie itself is screaming porn parody. because
of that.
Which would be really funny.
So that scene obviously is not in the film, but we don't see them actually get out of the tunnels.
Oh,
so if you remember, the last thing they see is everyone's huddled around Bill because he finally comes to grips that Georgie's dead. He finds the jacket and he comes to grips with that. He's like, okay, Georgie is gone, and they're all crowded around him. And the next thing you see, it's like that was in August, and then you see it's September, and they're all in the field area in a circle, kind of just like talking and basically like saying their goodbyes for the summer, and they're just talking about their experience and like what they remembered.
Right.
So you don't really see them leave. So I highly doubt Andy Muschietti's going to do something in chapter 2.
I don't think so either. I think chapter 2 is going to be entirely the adults. I think it's going to start with the adults and just go on from there. Maybe just
the kids are in it. There are flashbacks.
Okay. Maybe flashbacks. Okay.
There's flashbacks. They've already said that there's flashbacks with these kids, and not to mention that they're going to be using, believe it or not, de-aging technology on the kids, because now it's a couple of years later, so some of these kids have gotten older. They're going through puberty right now.
At the age that they actually are, a couple of years is going to make a big difference.
Absolutely. So they are going to be de-aging some of these kids in these flashback scenes, from my understanding.
Now, one of the things in the book that I don't think they actually come out and say it. They skirt the issue, and I think they do the same thing in the movie. Is Beverly's father sexually abusing her?
Yeah,
and I think he is.
I agree with that, because he just every time he's in the scene and they're together,
but they don't come out and say
no,
it. So
they don't.
I think they do, even in the book too. I think they leave it up to your interpretation, but I think the correct interpretation is that
he has been. I mean, obviously the mother's not around, so obviously it's him and the daughter.
And he is a little
weird, and every time he's around her, Beverly's always uneasy.
Right.
So I just don't know, is he physically abusing her or sexually abusing her?
Or was it only in the past, or is it ongoing?
Right. It's almost a little hard, and even just the things that he says. Are you still my little girl?
Yeah. And the fact that she bashes him over the head.
Yeah.
With the toilet tank. To me, it's like she has something to be really pissed about.
Oh yeah. I think so too.
Yeah. So I think.
And obviously that was the person that she feared, right? So let's think about that. So each character, so Pennywise's whole thing obviously is bringing out your fear, making you scared. That's what he wants. He wants to feed on your fear. So what was Beverly's fear? It was her father.
Yeah.
So
what was the personification of that then?
Her father.
Oh, okay.
So right? So at the end, when they're all fighting Pennywise in the
right.
Pennywise turns into the dad.
Yeah.
And that because Pennywise he's having one last stand to try to scare them all one final time, and to try to drag fear out of them, and he turns into her dad, and she's like, no way, she doesn't. She just takes the rod and shoves it right down his throat. Yeah.
Now I thought the scenes where Georgie was running around without his arm was a little freaky.
In the tunnels.
Yeah, in the tunnels.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's almost like if you wanted to convince Stuttering Bill that that really was his brother, still alive, having him run around without his arm. I'm like, okay, that's a giveaway. He wouldn't be armless. One of the things that I really think they took a little bit of license with was it is a common phrase in the book where Pennywise says, "Down here we all float."
Yes.
And I think it's just an analogy to It's just
As saying.
a saying that he uses, and it's just it's an analogy for something in his own head. It's just something that he likes to say. But in the movie, they actually show the bodies floating, and I don't think that that's in the book, that actual type of visual.
I don't think that visual is described like that. No.
Yeah, like actual floating.
Right. I think there's something to the bodies.
Yeah,
In
and
the
to me,
book, but not like
that I think what made that line effective in the book is the mystery behind it. Like it's just something to get into your head. It's not an actual literal thing. I don't really know that actually having the floating bodies relating to what he says down here, we all float. I don't know if that works. Because I don't think
I like the visual to that.
I don't think the bodies are all there. I think everybody's just dead. You know what I mean? And gone.
Well, I think the majority of those people probably are dead.
Yeah, but I think
maybe some of those people were like Beverly at one point, and they weren't afraid of him.
Yeah.
So they stared into the
nobody,
deadlights.
and nobody could bring them down.
And no one could bring them down. So they stared into the deadlights, and then they just floated.
Cool.
But so that's a possibility too. But to me, I really enjoyed a lot of what this film brought. In my opinion, I definitely thought this was one of the better horror films of the last 15 years.
It's gotten a lot of clout, and
I'd be hard pressed to find a few more horror films that I enjoyed more than this one.
Yeah, see, and to me, I thought this, in my opinion, this movie I was expecting it to be a lot better than it was, and I was a little disappointed in it. I mean, if I'm giving it a star rating, it would be no more than 3 stars, and I'm leaning more towards 2.5. Even though there are certain aspects of it I really did enjoy, I just felt that overall, I thought the film could have been more, it could have been better, it could have been scarier.
That's my biggest criticism of this film, is that it probably could have and should have been scarier than what it was.
Yeah, I mean, because it was rated, wasn't it? It was rated R.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie being scarier would have been in line with, in my opinion, with the source material. So it would have been like, oh, why did they go over the top?
Well, there were things that were cut.
I don't think they did go over
there were some scenes that were cut that I know. The first one that comes top of my mind was that there was a scene where I believe Pennywise actually kills and eats an infant, which is like a little bit more gruesome and all that. Like that was one of the scenes that were cut. I don't think I've seen that scene though, but I remember reading about it. So there was supposed to be a director's cut that was put out on Blu-ray.
Oh.
And it has not come in 2 years.
Oh, it hasn't come.
No.
Oh,
like
okay.
that's what's upset me. So when the original Blu-ray was coming out for the first It, and Muschietti said, in 2018, later in 2018, we're going to put out the director's cut.
Now, I'm assuming he's the director for part 2.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine.
What I would really love to see, and I don't think this will be done, but it would be really cool if it was, after It Chapter 2, if someone would make an ultimate cut version where it literally splices the 2 films and you go back and forth between the adults and the kids like the book does. That would be incredible. It would be a 5-hour film. But
that's okay. Well, okay, so basically, you're talking about like the Godfather saga.
Yeah, or how they do that with 1 and 2.
Yeah, there's a version of the Godfather that you can watch called the Godfather saga that does 1 and 2 in chronological order, which is basically, the early back in the day scenes from Godfather 2, followed by almost everything that happens in the Godfather, and then the later scenes in
Godfather 2. Yeah.
So that would be interesting.
I think that would be an interesting way to view this film when it's all said and done. I don't think that will happen, but to me that would be interesting.
Like I almost feel like with the Lord of the Rings that so many scenes were cut out. Like I almost wish there was a version of
an extended
cut of Chapter 1 that was like 3 hours long, an extra 45 minutes.
I mean, I know there were multiple scenes that were cut that weren't put into the film, but I really would wonder. So if the theatrical was 2 hours and 15 minutes, how, you know, what are you going to add as a director's cut? Another 10, 15
Yeah.
tops, you know? But that's still, those could be important scenes that add character development, that add value and elevate the film.
Mhm.
I know I would watch it again to see that, that's for sure.
I mean, I would say to anybody who's seen the film, if you enjoy this film, and you're gonna see It Chapter 2 in a couple of weeks, if you watch both of those films and you love them, my highest recommendation is go read the book, because the book is even better. The book is
Oh,
absolutely fantastic. You will. It is. I mean, literally, it's not just my favorite Stephen King book. It's probably one of my top 5 books of all time. I really, it's such a good book.
You're a much bigger reader than I am, but I did really enjoy the book. I'll say that.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still looking forward for It Chapter 2, because I don't know all the actors and actresses that are in it, but I know Jessica Chastain
Jessica
is
Chastain's
in
playing
it,
Beverly,
and I love
that was
Jessica Chastain.
that was
I love Jessica Chastain.
before they even announced that. That was my, if I had to cast someone, it was going to be her,
Yeah,
because there's no other redhead that I think is going to be able to carry the role like her. I think she's a
Yeah.
fantastic actress.
Yeah, no,
She's got the red hair. I mean, there's Amy Adams. She's another redhead. I'm trying to think of like the really, like who's like. I mean, those are the only two right now. I mean, on the spot that come to my mind. I know there's more, but those are the two that really just stick out in my head. But you
Yeah.
got Bill Hader, who's playing he's playing Richie.
Who?
Bill Hader. When you see him, you'll recognize him. So he's supposedly getting a huge push, a huge standout in this. So far, some of the reviews and things I've been reading, because obviously the movie's coming out next week. There, a lot of the reviews have dropped.
Mhm.
They're saying that Bill Hader's performance is unbelievable. They're saying he's by far the best thing in this film.
Okay.
So I like that a lot. Who played Xavier? James McAvoy.
Oh, James McAvoy.
He's
okay.
playing
I
Bill.
like him.
He's playing Bill.
So at the end of the day, there are more well-known stars playing the adults than the kids, for sure.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think you're going to recognize a lot of people in the adult version. But I am looking forward to that. It comes out next week. That will most likely be our next review, unless we do another retro review. Right?
What's today? Monday?
Yeah. It's next Friday.
Oh, it is next
Yeah,
Friday.
it's next week already. That's coming out. So it's coming soon. So if you don't hear from us by then, guys, most likely we'll be saving it for It Chapter 2 for next weekend.
Episode 25.
That'll be episode 25.
That'll
25
be
in.
a nice milestone.
So a
episode.
nice milestone for us to be hitting that sequel. But yeah, guys, I think that's it for right now, right?
Yeah.
You good?
Well, I'll see you with my Pennywise shirt for episode 25.
Being back
unless
next
my
week.
wife gets her hands on it.
So guys, I think that's going to be it for us. If you, like John and I said before, if you haven't seen It Chapter 1, go see it before you go and see Chapter 2.
Absolutely.
Definitely well worth it. And like
Yeah.
John said, if you like both films, definitely go and read the book. Or get the audio book like
And
I
if you
did.
have 6 hours of your life that you never want to get back, you can watch the 1990 TV movie too. And
I think it's a little over 3 hours. It's long. It's long. I'll say that. That's a two-parter right there.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think with that, guys, we're going to sign off.
Yep.
Enjoy the rest of your night. Cheers.
Have a good one.